It's interesting how that happens. Anyways, how are you, sir?
That's the interwebs for you.
Yeah,
I'm doing good. How are you?
great. I'm good. Yeah, busy.
Good.
More than I want to be in August, but here we are. Make hay while the sun's shining and all that stuff, right? So, yeah, we're
Yeah,
doing all right.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing all right here.
So,
Things are good.
so we should do the
Busy.
greetings. Yeah, things are good.
Yeah, yeah. You go for it.
Yes, busy. So, hi everybody. We should do the intros. Jamie Vasey, Mortgage Jedi, a mortgage broker for all of southwestern Ontario and going all the way up north. And of course, I'm joined as always by
And that's me.
that's you.
I'm Sandy Hare from the Hare Real Estate Collective at Remax Real Estate Center. Our main office located in Guelph, but we also have 18 other offices that we can work from. So all the way up Highway 6 and down, and we don't dip into the GTA, but pretty close to it and past Kitchener. So here we are. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
Big, broad span bullseye in Guelph is what we do. Yeah. So, things are pumping here at the end of the summer, kind of gearing up for a mysterious fall, right? And see
Yeah,
if things kind of go. I feel like fall's a big mystery here in 2021 in Southern Ontario. There's a few things that we can kind of count on, but with the election looming and possible fourth wave conversations, it's really a very interesting time for real estate. For a lot of things, but for real estate.
it is. In many ways, it feels almost like a year in reverse. Because normally this time we're gearing up for September, October, November.
Mm-hmm.
Those tend to be busier months for
Yep.
us. This year, I felt like we experienced that during June and July,
Yeah.
and like at least I found that like it was busy in the beginning part of the year, or busier in the beginning part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with everything, and that of course you touched on the election, which I think is a good talking point for part of our session tonight
Yeah.
because every party is talking about affordable housing as being part of their platform.
Yeah.
And as I do, I kind of look at that and do a numbers crunch on what they say affordable housing is or how they plan on addressing
Right.
it. And so hopefully we can break some of that down for our
Mm-hmm.
for our viewers today so they don't get blinded by the headlines or the hype.
Yeah. Affordable housing's a hard one. Questions I would have about that is like, are these open market houses? Even blind bidding. I know that the Liberal Party had touched on what blind bidding looks like. That they put it in there as like the about sort of open bidding, and taking away our blind bid system here in Ontario, which everyone, I believe, most everyone in real estate is totally fine with. But don't see the benefits either way. Like you're just going to end up with the same scenarios. The only difference is like I celebrate that for different reasons, honesty reasons. But just to kind of come back to that about affordable housing, questions I would have about that is like, what does that mean? And what do you consider affordable? Are they for sale properties? Are they going to be hitting like the market at some point in time? And are they resaleable? And then also like, are we like, where are we talking about it? Like, where are we talking about? We're not talking about Southern Ontario
So
because it's barely affordable in Southern Ontario.
I think some markets in Southern Ontario, yeah, I think some markets. So let's start with a couple things. One, because it's a federal election, any of the numbers that they say are spread across
Yeah.
all of Canada. So when they talk about housing, they're primarily going to be talking about GVA and GTA being the greatest impact by whatever they try and do,
Yeah.
because those are also the largest voting centers. All right, it's unfortunate, but it's true. So let's start by let's start by saying, can we all agree on one thing? And this is something that I don't think people have quite grasped. Anytime they talk about things like um, improving the benchmark qualifying rate, extending amortizations, making it easier for people to qualify,
Mhm.
that actually does the exact opposite
Mhm.
from making things more affordable. Because what it's doing is it's causing more people to come into the marketplace, which is great. They want to help people qualify, help people qualify. That doesn't solve the problem. The problem right now is that we have 10 people for every house that's available for sale.
Yeah.
So the reason that housing prices have gone up is supply and demand. There is not enough supply for the demand that's out there. If suddenly you make it more um, accessible, you make it easier for people to qualify, that doesn't make the housing prices any less expensive.
No.
It actually drives them up even more. So let's take that piece off the table.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with affordable housing.
I agree.
Fair?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So let's then take in the second piece that's not being talked about in all of this. And that is immigration hasn't been happening for the last 2 years when this huge influx and housing price increase and housing crisis has happened.
Mhm.
So if you take a look at the 4 year average leading up to COVID, we had 300,000 immigrants every year in Canada.
Mhm.
So that's 300,000. Even if you say that those are families of five, that's 60,000 less houses or 60,000 less people competing for
Yeah.
housing, right? So, let's start by saying, okay, the issue is not going to be helped at all by helping people qualify for a mortgage, like making it easier for people to qualify, because that doesn't address the issue of housing prices and housing
That's
availability.
right. That's right.
Okay,
That's
so
fair.
we have that. Um, so then, if we actually take a look at the platforms that are being offered, you have the liberals saying that they're going to put $2.5 billion towards creating 35,000 more housing units. Well, 35,000 housing units doesn't truly address the need, especially once we get 300,000 more immigrants coming back.
That's right.
Plus, 2.5 billion sounds like a nice number, but that's under $72,000 a unit,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? The average cost for building an 800 square foot condo is over
It is.
$250,000. That's the cost for building.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it isn't. Just real quick, I lost you on my feed over here. I'm not 100% sure if we can still hear you. Yeah, your camera's gone dead on me. Yeah, I just can't see you. Hold on one second. I don't think I can hear you on mine. Perfect. Yeah, so to kind of go back to Jamie's point, what you were talking about there, that doesn't. It's like a drop in the bucket, like a tiny drop in a bucket that needs to be filled. A way to address affordable housing is to create more. It seems like you're coming on there, which is great. There you are again. Um, one way to create that affordable housing is to create housing, like to stop the competition for it. Then the people that have the supply have to make it more desirable for people to want to rent and or purchase from them over other people. So what we're looking at here
Sure.
is we need to figure out, and to your point, the average cost of building is about $450 per square foot. I think that's gone down a little bit because I just saw today that the price of lumber has gone down so drastically that some places have stopped producing it because, or something. Like, I think there's been a drastic reduction in costs of like building materials. That's just, I haven't had a chance to read it. I've been super busy today.
So I saw that. It was actually, the demand has gone down so much that people.
Oh, there it is.
The cost of lumber is so high that people aren't ordering it, so they have a surplus.
There you go.
So that's kind of what it is.
So what needs to happen here is, basically, like, my kind of prediction about this sort of thing is that the government's probably going to lean on condo for like affordable housing, like lean on, I guess, affordable housing, but like more housing is as they have been, and maybe put the pedal down on incentives for builders to build like apartments and condos in different areas. And we're not talking about GTA though. Like, we're talking about like the places that they'll start to build them will be places like Center Wellington or rural Hamilton, places like that, where it's cheaper, basically less expensive to live as well.
Okay, so I'm going to touch on a couple things. One, because I talked about what the Liberals' platform is, but didn't really talk about Conservative or NDP, and I want to make sure that I don't come across as,
let's do it,
as being slanted. I mean, the Conservatives, I mean, they're going to free up about like 15% of federally owned property to be used for construction builds. So that's saying here's some land, but they're not doing anything about the builders developing it. The builders still have to take on that cost and stuff like that. They're talking about building 1 million homes over 3 years. I don't know how that's feasible, like financially, because building 1 million homes over 3 years, and we know it costs $400,000 to build a home. Well, does that mean we're funding that through our taxes? Like, so that part's not clear to me yet.
Yeah. So, like, is it affordable housing or just paid for in a different way? You know?
Right. NDP, they want to do 500,000 houses in 10 years, so 50,000 houses each of the next 10 years. Again, none of these seem to address the demand we'll have as soon as immigration opens back up. And so I'm not sure, and that doesn't necessarily mean that these units will be affordable. It all depends on where they're located. I'm not going to touch on the Green Party because essentially they haven't fully announced, and I mean, if we're all being honest, the chance of a Green Party winning a minority or majority government is probably very slim.
It's probably slim.
So let's deal with Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP. Yeah. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They all seem to have some sort of tactic to address foreign investors. Okay, so the Conservatives want to ban foreign investors for 2 years, which basically means you cannot live outside of Canada and buy a property in Canada unless you're moving here and going to live in it. Okay? Everybody else is doing something along the lines of foreign investors or what they call low occupancy.
Yep.
So Airbnbs or properties like that, they're going to put heavier taxes on those things.
Yep.
That's in hopes that people who invest in properties will stop investing in properties, freeing these up for people who want to live in owner-occupied properties. Right? So here's my question. You know as well as I do, if I'm investing in a property, any taxes I get hit with count as a business expense at tax time.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I'm not sure it's a deterrent. The other piece of that is, and this was just a thought, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. is a better way of doing it, saying to builders, we will incentivize any unit you sell that is owner occupied.
Mhm.
So when all these new builds start happening, it's if you're going to be occupying your unit, we can sell you the unit for 450,000. But if you're buying it as an investment property, the price starts at 550,000.
Yep. Yes. I agree. I agree. There's kind of a downside to that as well, because then somebody who has to buy it for 550,000 needs the rent paid on 550,000. Make sense? Like, so there's a
That's maybe what.
so that
Yeah, but that's what's the deterrent then.
yeah, but the thing is that they don't care if they can get it and they can get the rent for it. They won't, like, investors won't care as long as they can get the numbers work out. A way to kind of incentivize would be to giving like taxing investment properties a little heavier, maybe, which they already are, and I know that's kind of a heavy statement. Or again, the government tries to cap like how many you can individually own, or the banks do anyways. There's all these loopholes with like having a corporation and things like that, but you can own as many properties as you want as long as you can leverage loans. There's quite a few ways that could be addressed on that end. There is certain builders that have taken a stance on it themselves and have offered their one bedroom and one bedroom plus dens to only first time home buyers. So if you like go down to the Tri-Car buildings in Guelph or whatever, they have their one bedroom or one bedroom plus den units, and they're strictly for first time home buyers, which is a really great thing. It's just the thing is that you can't get a first time home buyer very often to think of that as their first home. Most first time home buyers right now like have detached home with a pool and like a garage in their brain at 550 or 500,000, in certain areas. And that's just not necessarily a thing unless you want to go to Mount Forest, I think that.
So, I mean, I know that. Sorry.
No, go for it.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I know this is something we've touched on in past episodes, but I think the biggest challenge is that our mentality has not caught up to our population.
That's right.
So if you take a look at in countries that are older than us, that have had big cities for a longer period of time, so anywhere in Europe,
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah, this area has been very like commuter heavy, but now that Ontario is becoming less and less GTA centric, the government has to kind of figure it out, like how to incentivize people. Yep, that's fine. But I think I just took I know I just took you out there, like, because it was gone black again. Yeah, I think that the way to like we're talking about making this affordable housing a real thing. I'll show you in stream. There you are. So there you are. There's been attempts at this sort of thing that where it made it not affordable housing. It comes down to proximity, and I think we're at this delicate, sweet time. And to your point, that we're not adjusted yet to this idea that we don't have to be close to Toronto to, live anymore. Like there's this weird magnetized kind of mentality about all the good jobs or the money jobs kind of thing are in the GTA, and that's a recent thing. Like that's fairly recent. Like I know people that are moving out to the East Coast and can work from home and only have to come into their offices, once a month or, never, so they've just decided that, oceanfront kind of home is where they want to be and work from, or are skirting it out to BC because if they only have to be in Ontario, but for the semi-annual meeting, they're cool with that. They'll fly in, there's our Ontario's need, like our mentality of how people work and how I hope our candidates here in the election are really thinking about the future and how people work and live as they're applying this affordable housing idea to Ontario. I don't think, or to Canada in general. And I think it's important to understand that this is a federal election. Affordable housing doesn't necessarily mean Guelph. It doesn't necessarily mean Kitchener. It may not be a blanket term. Like the GTA has its own property tax system. Like it's like there are rules that are very specific to regional sales. So I would say if you live close or your town is within an hour and a half drive of a major city, you can almost guarantee that they may not be speaking about affordable housing in your area. It may not be a thing. Like, and then affordable housing, again, the affordable housing is like subjective, the word itself, but it is what it is.
Well, it's really a buzzword, a buzz term.
My understanding is it's how much somebody can afford on the average income in Ontario or Saskatchewan or Alberta. I get that, but really at the end of the day, it is a subjective term. You really need to think to yourself, what are they saying? What does affordable housing mean to me? And where is that? What does that look like? Like, what's the actual plan here? Like, because really we're a supply and demand problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of times people think within their immediate circles. So it's easy for people in Toronto to say, it's hard for me to afford a place in Toronto. Or people in Guelph say it's hard for me to afford a place in Guelph. They don't think of the fact that people who are in, Alberta or New Brunswick or where have you, or Nova Scotia, those people, even though the property values are less, so are their incomes. Like cost of living, everything's proportionate. Mm-hmm. Generally, if you work in Toronto, you make more money because you work in Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. And they understand the cost of living in Toronto, and that's what they have to do to compete. So it's not like somebody who has a job in Toronto and somebody who has the exact same job in Fredericton make the exact same money at that job because the cost of living difference.
That's right.
So affordable housing is very different in each pocket because cost of living is very different.
Well, so and that's to your point. Cost of living has to go down, or the what people make, like income, general income, has to go up in some way. The average income.
So maybe the way to do it is for the government to and this would address a lot of challenges, but for the government to incentivize businesses to allow any employee who can work from home to work from home. And that way we can spread all these people out into all the different small towns or across the country or wherever you want. And that brings Toronto money over to Alberta or I keep saying Alberta and New Brunswick because they're the two that come to
Right.
mind, but it brings Vancouver money into Southwestern Ontario.
Northwest Territories,
It means that Northwest, wherever, up north to
Yeah.
Timmins or Sault Ste. Marie, or because we have a lot of people from Northern Ontario who come down here for university and just stay.
Yep.
But if they could move back home and be near family and still make the money they make here and buy the homes up there
Yep.
and help the economies up there by spreading the money around, maybe that's the way that you attack affordable housing.
And I'm with that idea 1,000,000%, is that incentivizing this work from home. It's work-life balance. It's got it encourages people to do their best work. It encourages and even if you think about it, if you're like this person that's like, oh, a healthy family environment, like kind of like ideas, like it's really great if people can work from home and life and balance their life that way. You get really great production out of people. And then the other thing too would be to incentivizing, if you have to go into work, let's say cleaning people, hands-on people, whatever, incentivizing businesses and compensating businesses, instead of, we'll come back to that 2-year no out of country thing in a second. Instead of doing something like that, why not incentivize these businesses to the government to incentivize the business to pay them more, like to compensate them. I keep using incentivize, compensate them for the pay increases that would be required for their general area. Like, what is a living wage in Guelph? What is a living wage in Toronto? What is a living wage in these areas that these people are in, and what are they actually making, So I just think it's interesting that I think there's other ways to go about it. Just to circle back on what you said regarding the no foreign buyers for 2 years, that's not going to do anything. So I can tell you that right now, just from my experience, the only thing it's going to do is to stall things for 2 years. The other thing it's going to do is that they will buy it via their family that live here. They'll buy it other ways through investors that live here. And I'll come back and I'll circle around to blind bidding and open bidding through this. I'll give you some time to kind of make some points on this, but what will happen is that also from a seller's perspective, you will get people that will wait to sell their house until that opens up again, because they know, that they want to sell their investment. And if people can wait, they will wait to sell their house until you have the maximum market to purchase. So waiting for that, money to come in from foreign countries, the people will wait. They'll be like, you know what, screw it. We'll paint the garage, put new drywall up, all of that. We'll wait it out.
So two things. One, I wanted to talk about, you talked about the improved quality of life.
Yeah.
That would happen if you incentivize businesses to allow people to work from home.
Yeah.
The ripple effect of that would be huge all around. Because one, it improves quality of life. Two, it reduces the strain on the healthcare system because people are healthier. Three, it's keeping vehicles off the road and reducing our carbon footprint. Like, there are so many issues that the government wants to tackle that can really easily be put into one little solution package. And the other thing is, if businesses don't need big offices because the employees get to work from home, hey, there's some buildings that could be converted into condos for more housing units. So there's so many things that would work.
So many things that work.
The other thing you talked about with the foreign buyers, here's what's interesting or intriguing to me. They want to tax or ban foreign buyers depending on which government's platform you look at, or which party's platform you want to look at. They want to tax what they call low occupancy units like Airbnbs or flips, properties that get bought and flipped.
Yeah.
We just came off of a year and a half to almost 2 years where Airbnbs couldn't even be used.
That's right.
And where investors couldn't kick their tenants out if they weren't paying rent.
Mm-hmm.
So you had all these investors who were sitting there, not collecting any income on their properties, but still watching the value of them go up double digits in value. And they're like, I don't care. I'm still making bank.
Making bank. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And the thing is that if you think that running Airbnbs is not a business, it's a business. It's small hotel business. So these people lost out quite a bit. And I don't know how we got from renting out your house privately to business on that. I mean, what a great growth. It's interesting to watch, but there's just, it's an interesting time when the government starts involving real estate into their platform. One of the biggest money makers for the government is land transfer tax. Like, it's like one of those taxes that's just like this rando tax that just floats around, and they make big money off of it every year. So, and it's interesting to me that they would, kind of try and mess with, the business of trade and real estate. It's basically like taking a cut of stock, people's stocks. What I want to circle around to was this open bidding and blind bidding scenario. Do you know a lot about open bidding? Like what that looks like? Have you heard about it?
Well, sure. Open bidding is essentially, this is what somebody brought up to me, and I said, well, it's not quite like that. So if you think about it, there are lots of properties that sell at estate auctions.
Yep.
And that is essentially an open bidding process. It's, for lack of a better term, storage wars, where people say, I'll give you 250,000, I'll give you 275, I'll give you 3. Mm-hmm. Like, that is kind of essentially what it is. Now, you and I have talked about this. I would be all for this process on one condition. To protect the buyers, it is mandated that all bids come with a condition of inspection and a 5-day condition of finance.
Yeah. All of it. Everything is conditional. 5 business days, finance, and inspection. Every single one of them. Unless the seller provides a detailed inspection for observation, like within a week before hitting the auction. So I'm wildly open for an open bid system because I have nothing to hide. Like when I'm dealing with offers on properties, I'm not, hiding or like being dishonest or anything. And I think where the general public kind of is like rah for open bidding system is where they think that realtors won't be involved and that maybe that dishonesty piece will be taken out of it. Here's the thing though, and I'm going to use the title of this little show that we have here. But here's the thing. I love it. But here's the thing is that is not necessarily so. Now disclosure for all listings is like king, makes for smooth transitions. Not with everybody. It will still continue to not be with everybody, even in the auction process. And if you think that an auction process means that realtors will be taken out of the process, that is not necessarily so. People will still be hiring representatives to represent them on a buy side and an auction side. This marketing will still happen, staging will still happen, appraisals will still happen. I personally think that every property should come with an appraisal from a third party, not the owner, not the realtor themselves. I think a third company from their bank that holds the mortgage should give a market value assessment of the property, and then you should be starting from there, or roughly have a ballpark like mandated ballpark area that you have to start at, not this house is about $600,000 and then someone lists it for $499, like that sort of thing. I think that would start creating some honesty in this business, and some clarification, more than some, what do you call it, like clarity to the process. But I also think that a blind bid system is better in a lot of ways, because I think a blind bid system is better in a lot of ways because it doesn't provoke competition the same way that an open bid system does. Open bid, you have to be there. Your representative has to be there on the phone with you, or you have to be there. You have to physically be there or on the phone with your representative, and you can get caught up in the bids, and it can also be very disheartening, and you'll get people from all different places that have all different kinds of cash to invest in the property, like coming to start bidding on it. So if you want to open a Pandora's box of blind bidding's the open bidding's the one to do it with. At least with a blind bid, somebody has to come in from another country, not see the property, and then come with their own baggage and put in the things that they feel is the best way to go. Or their realtors, like, this will get it for you. This top dollar will get it for you. But if it's you with, like, let's say this property is worth 600,000, you and this other person that's maybe from out of country, and you guys both have like $1 million or $1.1 million budget, and you both have this competitive kind of ring to you, like in your personality, they can just keep going until the house sells at like a crazy number. Because you guys, like, you start competing for that. Icing on my hand from cake. But so like there's a different element to that, where it's something different when you're putting it on paper. It feels a little bit more solid, a little bit more solidified, you know. An open bidding system would work if it was on paper, but that doesn't mean that people wouldn't be sending it back and saying, hey guys, like, this person, like, this open bidding is open bidding. This person over here, represented by their agent, is put in a bid for $800,000. Would anybody like to meet that? You know, then that, I know, understand that for now, that might feel like, okay, cool. Well, at least I know where I stand. But I promise you that somebody will say, fuck them. Oh, there I go. I did it. I swore. 37 minutes. We'll say, nope. Sorry about your luck. There I go. Sorry about your luck. 900,000. That will happen. I deal with people in these high pressure situations all the time. And the reason why they hire a representative is because they are not cut out for it, the high pressure. Like, I've built a stomach for it. I know what to expect. And it's a reason why people hire me, you know, to do it for them, you know? Anyways, so that's my rant on that.
The logistics behind an open bid system would be challenging. Like, unless you had a secured website that everybody went to, where the realtor is sitting there with their selling clients, and they're like, hey, here's the latest bid. And everybody else is logged in with their realtor sitting beside them saying, will you go this way? And they're typing, there's the next bid. There's the next bid, right? Like,
that'll be even worse.
Time limit on it and stuff. So, yeah, so I have a question for you as to whether or not there's two things that would help. One, what if they said you were no longer allowed to hold offers? So,
but an auction is holding offers.
As soon as your house on the market, it's not, we're accepting offers next Tuesday. It's once the house is on the market, offers start coming in.
But that's what we do already.
You have to deal with that offer as it comes in. Yeah, well, yes and no. There's still a lot of people who say their house is listed, I'll be reviewing offers next Tuesday. So it gives all the people the chance to view it and
come through and
craft their offer and things like that.
Yeah.
What if they got rid of that? What if they just said that once your house is on the market, somebody comes to you with an offer, they have a 48-hour irrevocable,
I mean,
and
that's great.
you have to deal with that offer first. And if you choose to pass on it, you're taking a chance that somebody else is going to come up with an offer because they might not.
So the thing is about that though is that you can't right now tell people how to sell their house. I can't even tell someone how to sell their house. I'm just a hired gun, you know? I just help people out.
Okay, but isn't that what you do by saying, but if you go to an open bid system, isn't that the same thing? You're saying you have to sell it this way?
No, an open bid system, you don't have to sell. You don't have to sell. It's a misunderstanding. An open bid system, if you do not have to sell, and in an auction system, an auction is set up just like holding off offers. It's marketed ahead of time to get people to the auction. And how do you think you get the people at the place at the time that you need them to? It's basically just a glorified holding off offers.
Okay, but you and I both know the holding of offers is something that only came about a few years ago.
Yeah, because of supply and demand.
That's not how real estate was happening.
Yeah.
Right. That wasn't what was happening. It was, if I put my house on the market and I got an offer the first weekend it was on the market, I had to weigh the risk of accepting that offer versus hoping I got offered something more if I turned this one down.
Yep. People still do that.
Sellers in that situation. Right. I'm just saying, I'm just wondering if that's a way of quelling the panic buys type thing, or the overbids or something like that.
So it doesn't. And I'll say from just to touch base on that a little bit, is that the person that brings you the offer on that day, like let's say you listed on a Thursday and somebody brings you an offer on a Friday, they will not let the house go. They won't bring you an asking offer. They'll bring you something that's like 50 grand over asking and firm. And it creates panic on the buyer side to bring something that the seller will work with. So that doesn't happen. And that's because of the supply and demand problem. So what in turn, what you will start having is more lawsuits, more issues with, and there's some really crappy realtors out there that don't do due diligence on properties and just let people buy them without looking into things or even knowing what they're talking about. We're seeing rural properties that have done this, listed and then sold over the overnight, and they're not putting in anything about septic. Like the listing agent has to put it in if the listing agent knows. But I was talking with a rural realtor, people coming in from the GTA buying houses in Center Wellington without a septic condition. You need that to close. And you and I've talked about this recently. Septic condition, a well condition, checking if the water is potable. They just come in and they're like, nope, sorry, we'll take it. Sorry, 50,000 over asking, 100,000. Don't deal with anybody else. It's just us. So they're not even looking into it. So on the other side, in the supply and demand issue market, and that comes back around to like making less GTA centric and spreading people out and creating more housing, is that it's really a supply and demand problem. So you could mandate that. You can't really tell people how to sell their house. They can sell it any way they want. You don't even have to work with a realtor. You could sell it on your own on Kijiji if you want to, and do it any way that you like. Really, only thing you would be mandating are the realtors that hold licenses that saying that I can't hold off offers on your house. And then that hurts sellers and buyers, because then they are just basically people that don't know how to handle high pressure situations, don't know how to handle sales. And maybe they work in never worked in a sales job in their life, never worked in a marketing job in their life, and can't basically have not being able to hire a gun. Like I call it a hired gun, but that's basically it. Only people you can mandate are realtors. You wouldn't be able to tell the general public how they can and cannot sell their house.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. As of right now.
What if we added something? Okay, so I want to touch on one misconception, and then first I'll talk about another.
Yeah.
I've heard an idea that I thought was interesting, that if people almost did like a resume page on the the offer. So it's basically, here's who we are. Like, we're a young couple, first time buyers. We have a young child. We really want this place because of the schools, blah, 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 blah. So, because people are sitting there talking about, there's a huge misconception. And the number of times I've had to correct people on this, and I don't think they listen to me, but
I
there
do.
are so many people who think, well, thank you. There are so many people who think that the reason housing prices are the way they are is because greedy realtors are driving up the housing prices. And the number of times I correct people on this is incredible because I say, hold on, why are you saying it's a greedy realtor who's driving up the housing price? They say, well, because they get their commission on the higher it goes for, the more commission they get. I said, all right, a realtor's commission is about 2%.
Average,
So
yeah.
let's say they sell it for 50,000 over asking. They get they get $1,000 more for that 50,000 over asking. How much does the seller get? $49,000. So who is the one who's driving up the housing price? The realtor or the seller?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because that seller doesn't have to, right? And the other things, the only reason they're taking 50,000 over asking is because someone's offering,
Because someone's offering it.
right?
That's the only
So it's
reason.
not, right? Like if those offers were coming in, they wouldn't be selling for that,
That's right.
right? And no realtor, no respectable realtor is going to encourage their client to offer 50,000 over asking to get an extra $1,000 if they realize that their client's overpaying for that house.
If it won't close, what's the point?
Right.
If it won't close, what's the point? So to that point,
So
it's not always, and I will say that there has been times this year where I can't stand behind my industry. There has been times this year where I can't, like I'm a big advocate that there are more good realtors than not out there, more people that are in it for the representation and the good representation of this business. I can't say that with all honesty. This year I haven't had a moment of questioning what the intention, like how us as a profession have contributed to the way the market is right now, for sure. Is it the fact that we hold off offers? No. So in a scenario, the way it should go down, or to your point, like, it's like an ethical practice, is to give your people all of their options and then advise them on what has worked in the past, what's honest, what's dishonest. I've turned down dishonest work this year, like completely dishonest work, that like things that I would not do and cannot do and would not morally or ethically do. Or people that I wouldn't work with because of it, because it's not good for me. It's not good for my reputation. I'm not going to pair myself to your sale, but that's, at the end of the day, that's not everybody, right? And I just think that if we're going to try to curb house prices, I think people will be, the other point I want to make about the whole blind open bidding system is that changing it up will be very disappointing for people. I think, in my prediction, that it will still become a lot of the same thing. You will still be technically holding off offers and marketing a property. It's just every property will be held off, or it will be sold off market, because people like myself, who have a database of people looking for specific houses, will have connections with different realtors that have a databases of houses to sell, or vice versa, and we'll get deals done between us. It'll kind of go underground a little bit, like a bit more ahead of time, because people won't want to go with the fuss and the muss ahead of time of going into an auction, and buyers will get a little bit more desperate at that point, because they don't want to, because the thought of running into that kind of competition will tip them over the edge. The competition of blind bidding right now has almost tipped too many buyers over the edge and given them mega burnout. The expectation that is going to fix it.
I mean,
yeah, it's just mega burnout. It's just going to happen. But the thought of it actually fixing the market isn't going to happen. What needs to happen within the market, and also the thing is that what they're talking about here is something that won't happen, because one of the biggest investments that the most common investment that people make is real estate. It's like almost like tons of people, that's their major investment is real estate. Like almost every person in parliament has a home or multiple homes that they own, that the equity of those is part of their fortune. So we're not talking about something that people are going to try and change the value of prices. If prices of houses go down drastically to create an affordable price, that is a bigger economic problem. We have bigger problems, way bigger problems for longer periods of time if that happens. It's focusing on terms like these are election terms. We're going to talk about making it open bidding and things like that. Well, good luck. It's just like them talking about all kinds of different things that they promise and don't fulfill on or think through all the way. They just pick up keywords. I get mad.
So it's an interesting point that you make. No one involved in the housing industry, in the trading and real estate industry, nobody involved, from government regulators to the politicians, to the realtors, to the mortgage Jedis, to anyone involved in this industry. It doesn't serve anyone in that industry to have property values go down.
It doesn't serve the general public. It doesn't serve them for it to go down.
Like what I'm saying is, it's like saying, like, I don't think people realize that if housing prices suddenly dropped, the cause for the housing prices dropping is going to have to be coming from a massive jobless rate.
Yep.
A massive amount of mortgage defaults.
Yep.
Like the things that are required,
bigger problem,
to affect the price of housing means that even less people can even think about buying houses.
That's right. Yes.
Right? Because the economy's just gone to crap.
That's exactly it.
I think at this point, what they need to maybe look at doing is finding good ways of incentivizing home ownership. So, like, one of the ideas that I'm working on, running the numbers, because I have nothing better to do than look at numbers, is what would happen if insured mortgages carried an amortization period up until you turn 65. So if you're 25 years old and you're buying a home, you can amortize it over 40 years. But if you're 35 years old, you can only amortize it over 30 years. That extra amortization period helps offset the fact that younger people maybe don't make as much money yet, or don't have the same earning potential, maybe still have some student debts, haven't saved up as much down payment, all that stuff. But it gets them in the market sooner because they can qualify maybe with a little bit less earnings or with a little bit more debt because they have the longer amortization period. And it's saying, hey, this may not be your house until you're 65, but we're recognizing you have the ability to carry a mortgage from now until you're 65.
Yeah, interesting. And coming at it from a mortgage level, there's like, maybe that's something that needs to be dissected, not necessarily the way that houses are traded in the marketplace, but just looking at the way loans happen, and how that can be, regulated in a way that is profitable for people, especially because private lending has become such a big thing. I would say even in the last 6 years, that I've been really paying attention, that my understanding is that it is private lending has grown and become a very viable option with and that maybe that's one way to dissect, to your point, amortization rates, and to dissect how the lending process and the banks go about it. Because, and I will say, it felt really willy-nilly this year felt like you get $1 million mortgage and you get $1 million mortgage and you get $1 million. It was like craziness. Anybody with like a $20,000 deposit felt like they were just handing it out, a 20% deposit.
Yeah, but let's keep this in mind. All of this happened after the government put in more and more regulations that made qualifying more challenging.
True.
Right? So we can't sit there and say we want them to make it easier to qualify when clearly it's not that difficult to qualify because we're selling more homes, more money.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about qualifying. I just mean like dissecting the way the way the lending happens to make, I don't know. It's hard because I could say things like to stay in their houses longer or to think about their processes like a little bit more short term. But if the thing is, I was saying before about like shutting down the whole foreign investors for 2 years. Well, that's just going to stop people from selling their home for 2 years, and that's going to create a supply and demand problem, which we already have. So
I do want to touch on I just want to touch on the private mortgage thing we talked about. And you're absolutely right. The thing is, there's going to be a reckoning coming. That's the best way I can put it.
I love a good reckoning.
So FSRA, FSRA, there's a financial regulator of Ontario. I know I didn't get that right. Financial superintendent. Anyways, FSRA. Anyways, it's financial superintendent regulator of Ontario. Anyways, they are clamping down huge on private mortgages. It's happening slowly, but it's happening in a significant way. So a couple things that have happened already. Insurance for mortgage brokers, our errors and omissions insurance, skyrocketed this year because there are more lawsuits related to private mortgages. So my brokerage, for example, what they did is they said, okay, everybody has to pay a little bit more for the insurance, but we're going to charge you a premium on every private mortgage you do to help offset the increased cost of insurance on private mortgages. So people who are doing primarily private mortgages are having to pay a higher insurance premium than everybody else. Now, they might just back end that and charge that to the client when they charge their fees. But the amount of regulation happening around it is becoming greater and greater. And so you're going to see a couple of things happening on that front. You're going to see people who were doing private mortgages suddenly get a huge rude awakening that they can't keep doing them the way that they've always done them. And that's going to, I think what that's going to do is squeeze out a fair amount of the shadier private lenders, the predatory private lenders, which would be an amazing thing as far as I'm concerned. Now, that leads into your predatory real estate thing that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, predatory real estate practices. It does. So my business partner, Rebecca, the wonderful Rebecca Walker, has been doing a couple TikTok videos on that. There's like a window of opportunity right now for people to feel like there's a higher amount of equity in their home, and like maybe we should sell it and get rid of this old thing and move on, and maybe we could rent or move out east or move, whatever, and move on with our lives. But feel like, a little shameful about their properties. Like, I go into so many people's homes and the first thing people do is apologize for things like right away. I promise you I've seen worse. I used to clean for students and bachelors. I owned a cleaning company, so I've seen things. But the predatory practices that are happening right now are like the little flyers you get in your mailbox that say, we will buy your house. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to do anything. No pesky like realtor telling you, you know, what you have to do and what you have to, like, what has to happen, and paying awful commissions and high commission rates and things. But Rebecca and I are working really hard on smashing those kind of ideas out of people's brains, because what you have in your pocket is something that they want, you know, like you have it like a property that you can sell that maybe you've held on to for a long time, or you inherited at some point in time. The value in it, I promise you, is worth more than what you think it is, just the way it is. But these people kind of like feed off of that. You are feeling slightly shameful of your home and don't want to go to market with it for one reason or another, or that you have, you know, no money in the bank and can't, you know, do the necessary repairs to sell your home. They're waiting for you to, they're fishing for you to come forward, like casting out their line and like touching the top of the water, waiting for you to bite. And the thing is about it is that a lot of it is very untrue. And the thing, and what's funny about it is that I can't, and Rebecca and I've gone back and forth with our broker about it. Like, is there a postcard that I could send out into the same neighborhoods that these people are sending out these fake handwritten like postcards that says things like, you don't have to fix up your home. You don't, the market's hot. You don't have to fix up your home. I'm going to give you suggestions. You don't have to list, you know, you don't have to paint. I'm just going to give you a suggestion. You don't have to do this. I'm going to give you this. There's lots of ways to go about getting your house ready for market, and all of them don't have to be a thing. Your house will sell. You just have to be willing to listen to a hired gun like myself about how buyers are buying, what they're willing to spend, and trust the process and hold my hand while we're doing it, you know, like, and walk you through it. But that doesn't mean that you have to fix every single little thing or be, you know, the most perfect house on the street. It just means, like, if that house up the street sold for $600,000 and you need about $100,000 in work to be that house, that we're looking at probably about $500,000. But to get butts in the door, we're listing at $450,000.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I live in a brand new build neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and we just got one of those handwritten postcards in the mail, and I'm like, who are they thinking? Like, who are they thinking this appeals to in this neighborhood, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I've seen properties listing that sell for a lot over asking, that don't even have a ceiling in some of the rooms. Like, you know, that there's work that needs to be done. And you get people coming in saying, yeah, I'm fine doing the work and still offering over asking. It's happening.
You don't know who your buyer is. You could have oil heat in your house, and your buyer's family could own like a furnace company, and it won't matter, you know, like they just want the location, or they just wanted this, they just need to get in the market. They just want to fix it up and flip it. That person that's buying it from you with that handwritten letter, they're just fixing it and flipping it too, you know, like but it's a matter of like, are you working off of one postcard, or are you allowing us to put it out to a broader market and get it on the Toronto board, get it on the Guelph board? You know, I'm not sending out postcards except for the immediate neighborhood saying that we have a listing in their neighborhood. I'm sending it out to the most reachable market in the area, you know, and tossing it all around at Remax, which is we have 19 offices, or 18 offices. So it's just there's things on there that they say, and my business partner Rebecca called them one day and said, hey, she described her house to a T, and they said, sorry, like on the thing it said we buy all properties no matter the condition. And she explained it because her house, like, she wants to do a new build on it, a rebuild, and she's doing that next year. Watch out for our Instagram and our TikToks on that, and our YouTube on that. But she called them and described her home, and they said, sorry, we don't buy homes like that. Like, they're not looking for every home. They're looking for specific properties and specific vulnerabilities so they can build their portfolios. It's very predatory. They're preying on your vulnerabilities, and a good realtor should make you money, not cost you money. That's the key phrase. And I know it sounds cliche, but a good mortgage person or Jedi, a good realtor, should make you money. I'm tied to your investment. And the way I work is I'm tied to it for life. We are talking about your house for life. And everything I ask of the list that I give our clients are merely suggestions. There's certain things that have to happen in order to get a mortgage. It has to have a building on the property with a kitchen, and I believe a ceiling. Like, there's some sort of, like, maybe you could speak to that a little more. There's a couple like funny rules. It has to have a kitchen or running water, something to that effect. Like certain things. Habitable. Like, it has to be inhabitable.
Inhabitable, yes.
It has to be. You have to be able to live in it. So there's that. But we rarely come across that in the marketplace. And everything's negotiable. Every single thing's negotiable, but you have to be willing to negotiate with us as well. So if I say, again, your properties were that house up the street sold for $600,000, but it had $100,000 more work than your house, you're probably around the $500,000 mark right now. You should list at 450 or 400,000 to get butts in the door, like just to get butts in the door, like in this market, or list it at 500,000 for 48-hour revocable. I need you to listen to me. I need you not to tell me that the yard's deeper, that it should be, and that it has a grandfathered in apartment in the basement. So it's definitely worth more than the house up the street. But meanwhile, you have, like the cast iron pipes and the, like all of these things, right? Like, you need to listen to your representative and trust, like that's the thing. But these predatory real estate practices have really amped up in the last little while. And it's really unfortunate because people are falling for it. And all you're doing, look at it as a red flag, is you are building somebody else's portfolio. These things are taught in classes, these real estate retreats or these real estate things that they come out to, and they say, get X amount of properties in X amount of time so you can have X amount of retirement or become X amount of millionaire. Like, these people are preying on your vulnerabilities, and they're looking for you. So don't call them, call me instead. I'm happy to talk to you.
No,
Jesus.
So the equivalent to that is in a sense the private lenders, who. Here's the thing. There is a time and a place for a private mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay. I will say that there are very specific individualistic circumstances, but you never get a private mortgage unless you have an exit strategy. One.
Yes.
Right. If you don't have an exit strategy and a specific reason as to why you need it as a private mortgage, then you don't do it. Okay. So you have to have an exit strategy. And the numbers have to make sense. So if it's a situation where that the cost involved in the private mortgage makes sense because the property that you're getting is going to appreciate more than that in value, and you have an exit strategy to get switched over to an alternate or a prime lender, then yes, do a private mortgage. But be aware, because just like every other type of mortgage that's out there are private lenders who charge a huge amount of fees and high interest rates, and others who charge lower interest rates and lower fees. So having a broker who deals with a lot of different private lending options is a wise way to go.
Yeah.
So that's something else to keep in mind. And yes, it can be a predatory situation. So, somebody who says, hey, I'll give you a second mortgage at this percentage rate or whatever, be mindful that before you give in to that, call a mortgage broker or mortgage Jedi and see, hey, is there a way of me just taking the equity out with an alternate lender before I go this route?
Yeah, and I agree. I think that anything that sounds too good to be true should be looked at twice. should be looked at twice. Like, be really double down at like where you see it's coming from. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Just any research that you do want to do it twice, each piece. Like, it's just worth it to do it. I don't think that. And the thing is that I think right now with people and their amount of equity they have in their homes, and the hard times that a lot of people have fallen on, or even not even hard times, just sheer wanting something different and to just move on to like their dream of living by the ocean, or like something to that effect, like, and it feels within reach at this time. There's room there for mistakes to be made, and that's the one thing I find is one of the biggest struggles with this business, is that I have a hard time being like, oh, please call me, like, just let me. But the problem is that I understand that I'm a sales representative, and that's can sound very self-serving, like, and I understand that it can sound very much like the people that send you those postcards, like, so, but I just think that if somebody is coming to you, just as a general rule of thumb, that if somebody is like coming to your doorstep and saying, I would buy your house cash, it's worth bringing somebody in, like, it's worth just bringing in a professional, talking to someone about it. There's a good chance that guy's knocking on your door saying, I want to buy your house for X amount. Or here I am, I'll buy it without you having to paint or whatever. It's worth calling someone or asking someone for a referral. I have a list of realtors you could call that I would trust with that scenario if it's not me. Like, there's just so much room for error there, and loss, like a loss of income. You lived in it, the market's grown. Why not give it a shot?
It's funny because people will ask for a second opinion when it comes to so much lesser things. A car repair, they'll ask for a second opinion.
Right?
If they have to get their furniture, their
painting
dishwasher
quotes,
replaced, they'll get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not ask for a second opinion when it comes to something like a major sale like your house?
Right? Like a major sale like your house, or like, like refinancing your mortgage or whatever it looks like. Like, it's interesting to me. Yeah. It's just, I just say beware. Just beware. If somebody's coming to your doorstep, knocking and saying, I have this for you, and you didn't know this was a thing, it's probably too good to be true. Ask someone who knows. Like, I've got someone in your area I'm sure you can call. So anyways,
let's get to the fun stuff. What are you drinking tonight?
I actually have picked up these Dixon's Gin Fusions for the summer. Dixon's is my favorite gin. I think they've just nailed it with the flavor. This one, next to the other one I drink, the mint cucumber ginger ale one, which is unbelievable. This one's the raspberry blood orange, and it's 120 calories. It's a hard gin soda. It's delish. I love it. Yeah. So, what about you?
That's awesome. We both have raspberry. We both have raspberry juice.
It's the end of the summer.
So I'm trying a beer from Sons of Kent.
Ooh.
Sons of Kent is the brewery, and it's a wheat beer, which is often referred to as a white beer. Mm-hmm. Raspberry wheat beer, and it's appropriately named Berry White. Oh. So I just thought it. I'm like, how can you not want a beer called Berry White?
I love it.
Delicious, and it's delicious and sexy.
And sexy. Yeah. It's good.
Oh,
it wants to be with you all night long.
It does. It's just awesome.
You could do a whole line of beers, like with Berry White variables with great names, like first and last and everything. Like, you could just go for it, Anyways, I guess we've kind of rode this one out. It's been like an hour and 15. So there's just a lot of talk, lots to talk about, I think with the pending election and stuff. I think we should come back to it after the election, or maybe just before, and see where we're at, but see what else kind of surfaces about the real estate world and what happens like leading into spring. We'll kind of go from there. But yeah,
Yes. So I do want to touch on one last thing,
sure.
and that is we've talked a lot about the election and the platforms.
Yeah.
It's a very important message to get out there. Do not, if you're thinking about buying, selling, anything like that, do not use the election as a reason for waiting. And the
Don't
reason
do
I say
it.
that is
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what party wins. Any incentives or changes that they want to make is still going to take time to implement. So what we have now is going to be the status quo for a while, even after the election,
I agree.
because it takes time to undo things or do new things. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to wait till after September and see what changes are happening, those changes won't happen until maybe the new year.
Maybe.
We don't know. So
Yeah.
don't let that be a reason for you holding off.
I agree. The last election, it was a big hold off. People really like waited, and then everybody hit the pool at the same time. It was a big mad rush, and it really didn't make much of a difference. So I would say just real estate investment prices only matter when you're investing. And if you're going to hold on to a property for 3 years, for 5 years, it's not going to matter. It actually only matters when you sell it. If you sell it now, like don't wait. Like listing a house, we might be like, okay, how are buyers buying, things like that, but don't wait. There's people out there that want your house and they're willing to pay for it and willing to let you move on because of it. You know, and you get to move on. That's the ultimate goal.
And like we said earlier, if you're waiting for prices to drop, if the prices actually did drop, you're still not going to be able to because you're going to have bigger issues to deal with.
That's right. That's what I tell people all the time.
You're either going to be out of work, or inflation's going to be ridiculously high, or like there's going to be much bigger economical issues to deal with.
Yeah.
So
just do the trade. You need to trade. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was awesome. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hopefully by next time I'll have a fully recovered voice.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, that'd be great. You know, I feel like I've spoken to you like every month this year, but I miss the sound of your voice. It's weird.
I miss it too.
Yeah.
Jenny doesn't.
Sure
Jenny's perfectly fine with
I'm sure she's ecstatic. This should be an annual thing. Can we do this like every summer?
Yeah.
Okay. Have a great
voice, please.
Please. Yeah.
You too.
Yeah. Have a great summer. Have a great summer, everybody. Have a great night. Bye, Jamie.